All right, we're doing it a little different today. So, welcome to those who are attending live, and welcome to those who are watching this on a bit of a delay. It is Friday morning, 9:30 Eastern here in the good old US of A. And it's 11:30 your time, right, Eduardo?
Yes,
For our
that's
last
that's
Friday,
it.
you will be an hour ahead of us. Next week, or 2 hours ahead of us. Next week, we have our time change and we'll be an hour apart again. So it'll be nice. We'll be close time
Oh, yes,
wise. So,
yes, that's good.
but all right. So I'm gonna dive right in because there is a lot happening, I feel like, in Brazil and in the cash market in particular. Do you want to just kind of give us the week's updates or the update on the week's events? Because you have a half a week basically. We had the holiday to start, but the wheels have kind of come off to a certain extent, it seems, since you returned from holiday. We've seen a 50 cent a bushel increase in bean basis in certain spots. And you want to fill us in on what you're seeing and what's happening overall?
Okay, yes, soybean market is on fire again. And this week, up to yesterday, we have a fifty cents rally for April and May shipments of soybean in Paranaguá, the paper market. But the cargo also are very hot, and we have the same rally, and the custom freight, China the same. So I never saw this kind of in the middle of the harvest with this very big crop, 50 cents rally in 1 week. So that's a big deal, and we still live in the short squeeze of logistics. That's the main thing.
What will solve it, I guess, at this point? Do you think anything I mean, because you had another incident at a port, and where you tell us about the incident in the port that you had, and you know what that means as well, because we already were having a chunk of logistical headaches, or had a lot of, like you were saying, logistical issues, and now we had this port issue. Is it the only one, or is there more than one port issue? I guess I'm asking too many questions at once, but fill us in on what's going on there with the ports, because that's important.
Oh yes, yes. It's getting more and more important. The northern ports, for example, Barcarena and Itaki. So just to give a numbers, we have 13 million tons of nominations of soybean, 4 million in Santos, which is the largest one, and then we have Itaki and Barcarena at the same level, 2.1 million tons. So it's larger than Paranaguá, uh, that used to be the first one, and then second now is the fourth one in terms of the size of the program. So these two ports are getting so important for our program. First the soybean, and then corn. And Barcarena, this accident is not helping for sure. ADM and Viterra, they use this terminal, and nobody knows when this terminal will get to normal again. They are trying to switch cargoes to Santos, and then maybe we are going to have for the several weeks, and then we may have problems for Santos, for example. So the TRO, which is Rondonópolis in the middle of Mato Grosso, we have a rail terminal. So all the trucks are moving down to the south of Mato Grosso, up north to the south. And maybe, I don't know if TRO will be able to, you know, get all this volume, this switches, and go to Santos. So the logistic squeeze will continue.
What you had talked about take or pay in kind of the logistics conversation in your commentary yesterday afternoon. Can you kind of fill us in on what is take or pay and is that a factor as well in some of this squeeze that we're seeing?
Yeah, take your pay. Maybe in the US you have the same. It's a freight agreement, but differently from the US and Brazil, you make this agreement mainly for rail and barges, and then you don't have the other option, for example, to resell it.
Okay.
You have to use that. Then you create a trap because last year, for example, because of the crop failure of soybean and the big taker pay agreements, so the commitments were very big, and then they have two options. They pay the fine, 70% of the value of the freight, which is very expensive.
It's painful if you're not moving. That's expensive for sailboat fuel. That's what we call air. Like if you have an empty load, that's it's an
Yes,
expensive
yes.
rate to pay.
If you have no performance, and then it's a very big trouble. So it's better to buy soybean or corn, whatever, making a loss in the origination, better than the to pay this fine of 70%. That's the deal. So that's the explanation why, for example, last year losing money trading, skip shipping a lot of the soybean and then corn. Then this year we have a lower for all the tradings because of the huge losses they occurred the last year, and then they decreased the commitment. But I think we have take or pay rollover from the last year to this year for corn, and the performance of the take or pays during Jan and the first half of Feb were poor. So again,
Kind of
rollover
backing
to
up
the
on
market.
freight. Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, your long
So
freight you can't resell that no one, I mean, people want it though, right? Or no? Is it, I mean, you it confuses me to a certain extent, just a little bit that you can't trade it. You know what I mean? If you owned freight or if you had agreed to take transfer so many bushels and you didn't and someone else wanted it, but at this point in time, that's just not really how it works, right? Yeah,
yeah,
it's
in
interesting.
Brazil, that's the way because we have only three logistics operators.
Yeah. It's
We
nuts.
have not so many, so the it's not a competitive market.
We had talked a while back, that the logistics costs were squeezing the commercial. It's is it getting worse? I mean, are you to the point now where, our margins really poor, or is it just a matter of we'll pay what it takes to cover our needs and hope we make up for it on the back end?
Yeah, trading in Brazil, they are buying the soybean and bases are moving up in the interior, which is amazing because of the so
It's a huge.
large crop. Nobody would expected that, but they are trying to transfer this more expensive origination to China. And
Okay.
China, they are the margin, the margin China, and including Brazil, deteriorated very fast.
Hmm.
They are buying, but in a very slow pace. But they are, making this rally real because in the CFR, since the holiday in China, in the end of January, up to now, we have $1 per bushel rally in basis. So, but they are not so happy. But they are trying to transfer this higher cost.
It is interesting to me. Carl, did you have anything you wanted to ask?
Yeah, kind of. Ed, Eduardo, what's the quality of the soybean crop coming out this year?
Carl, the quality not because of the rain or because of the weather, but uh, farmers in Brazil up north they are planting more plants per hectare, And the population of the soybean is increasing because there's new varieties here in Brazil. I don't know, the genetics is changing very fast, and then they are able to increase the population per acre. So because of that, the protein content is lower.
Okay.
And if you think about the protein content, is it's the quality is not good. For example, Mato Grosso used to have 35%. Amazing. The south of Brazil, for example, it's more like Argentina, 31, 32. Now Mato Grosso, till now, I keep hearing some reports that 33 or lower, so lower protein content. The result is this: our premium over, for example, U.S. Gulf, it's lower. Used to be, for example, 15 cents per bushel. Now I think it's five, maybe.
Okay. Thank you.
It's crazy to think you guys are almost halfway through bean harvest, and if it weren't for the tariffs at this point in time, right, we would be competitive potentially into China to a certain extent on beans. Um, and you had pointed out in yesterday's commentary that the lack of logistical capacity in Brazil for the next couple of months could push other customers to the US potentially that we wouldn't necessarily expect either. So it'll be interesting to watch. I always will say, or I've said for a long time, I think anyone that has traded the physical market knows that just because it says something on paper doesn't mean that that's how it's going to feel when you start trading it. So it'll be really interesting to see, how the rest of the season goes. Let's switch over to corn, if that's all right with you guys. What's the situation with safrina? You're a little dry in the eastern part of the country. It looks like the weather is going to improve to a certain extent. Is that impacting safrina area at all, or is it just more coffee and some of these other commodities that we've been hearing about?
No, yeah, if so far it's good. So far so good. So we don't have any kind of problems right now because it's very early to have problems, but it's very warm and some parts of the country, for example, Goiás, which is very important, Minas, important also, part of Mato Grosso and Mato Grosso do Sul, the it which is very important for supply the corn for the hog and poultry industry during the second semester. So all this part, I would say 50% or more, start with a very hot and dry, but it's too early. If April is the key, the end of April, when we are going to see the pollination of corn, and then but maps, of course, it's too early to say, and confidence is not that good.
Yeah,
So but this is maps are showing a drier trend.
yeah,
That
that's what
could be a
I've been
problem, but
seeing.
in terms of acreage, it's the same. No changes.
No change there. Um, the domestic corn market is also on fire, right?
Oh yes, deal.
Lack of offers is what I keep reading in your reports here. Talk about the domestic corn market and kind of who is competing, who's buying, trying to buy bushels. And you had mentioned a lot of the feeders in the South. Are they still competing with ethanol? Is that what is creating the tight market? Are you dealing with, export, probably not much in the way of export demand currently, but I mean, who is trying to get the corn in Brazil, and how much is available right now for the time being?
The harvest is delayed in Paraná and Minas, which is the main regions for summer crop. Because of that, farmers are trying to move soybean and let the corn harvest and the sales for May or June, whatever. And the feed market in Brazil, mainly in São Paulo, they are very short. Maybe because they were expecting a good crop or something else, but they are still short. And ethanol plants, they are covered up to June, July, August, September, there's a space to buy more. But when you think about the ethanol plants in Brazil, for example, Mato Grosso and Goiás, they have to buy not only for July, August, September. They have to buy October up to the next May 2026. So uh, will be tough because all farmers are holding. Farmers selling in Brazil for safrinha is very slow. They are selling something barter fertilizer versus corn for 26, but they are not selling for 25. So Brazilian corn is getting expensive.
Now, how does, and I mean, I guess, is it official that Brazil's going to roll back their import taxes on certain commodities? Is that official news now?
Oh yes, the plan
Okay.
is this, and I think it's going to. They will apply that.
Okay.
The president will sign.
How will that impact things? Do you think it will at all? I mean, corn's included on the list. Was ethanol? Ethanol had been rumored, but I saw it was just food products. Will that impact corn imports for Brazil? Does it make it more possible that we could see them source Argentina bushels or even I don't think they would turn to the US at all by any means, but what does that look like?
There's a region in Brazil, the northeast is which is a very distant from the center of Brazil. This region they have a good consumption there. They produce 2 million tons, so they need to import from somewhere, including inside of Brazil or outside, 1 million, 1.5 million tons. Depends on the price during the year, then we can see if the US is cheap or continues being competitive. Maybe we are going to see some imports from the US, corn or Argentina, but it's not a big volume and
Nothing
it's,
major.
it's not a game changer. The fact is, we have no corn, cheap corn in around the, including Argentina is very expensive.
Yeah.
So it's more politics than real thing.
What about
But
his
the point is
tax? Oh,
inflation.
yeah.
All this means in Brazil we have inflation, food inflation, and it's bad for government. And the next year we are going to see we're going to have elections.
There,
So that's the point.
you would never see a point where Lula would restrict exports, would you?
For so far, no, yeah, there were some guys there inside of the circle of Lula's circle. So she 1 month ago mentioned about the quotas, which is for Brazil it
Yeah.
would be a game changer for sure.
Because that's what you
And
saw. I mean, we saw quotas with the steel and aluminum with the to satisfy the US for so you have seen a quota system in Brazil used before, just not for ag, I would say.
yeah, but the ag minister, which is a pro market,
Yeah.
he's still there, so it's good. So I think this is the best indicator if this guy um, jumped out of the
If he
boat, and
quits.
then it's going to be
If he
a
quits
very bad
the
sign.
yeah, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on Lula's ta his new chief of staff, right, is pretty left leaning. Is that correct? Is there any real concern of that? Like I'm just simply paying attention because of the central bank issue and the worries over continuing to spend and some of these other things. And from some of the pieces that I've seen, she right is I think you're correct me if I'm wrong in this because I'm just a outside observer by all means, but it's important to currency and important to trade going forward. I feel like to kind of pay attention to the inflation and the changes that you're seeing in the administration. Do you think that was just is that a move that folks were happy to see? Does it really even matter? Or because we are talking about food inflation and some of the biggest complaints from the central bank has been Lula's lack of fiscal control. And so to bring more folks in that are a little bit more left leaning in that regard, I've read folks say is concerning, but I mean, what are your thoughts? Does that really mean a whole lot as we move ahead?
Yeah, the point is, yeah, the last week we Um, President Lula mentioned two names, very bad names for the market, and market was very afraid of. Whoa, it's for real. One is very leftist, so but the leftist guy that you could imagine. So uh, why doing this? Because trying to you know take all the left parties to make a I don't know, make a good
Super
group.
party.
Yeah, super party, which is not good for the fiscal part. Of course,
No.
it's not. But the point is, in the end, we still have no fiscal plan for this year and the next, which is bad. We only
Mhm.
have our central bank fighting against inflation and very weak guys talking about or saying something about the cut expenses, but I don't think government will do something relevant. Then I think it's just a matter of time to see exchange rate pricing all of this mess and the no fiscal plan.
But is that part why you think farmer selling perhaps is a bit slower? I mean, we've seen in the past, and I'm not saying you're heading down the exact same path as Argentina by any means, but we have seen in the past, when you have a lack of fiscal restraint, when you have explosive inflation, and some of these other concerns that you see, Brazil kind of dealing with currently. The farmer, his best hedge, their best hedge against currency depreciation and inflationary pressure is to hold supplies. Do we have that in Brazil, or is it just a different function at this point?
No, no, we are not in this position. Yeah, of course,
Okay.
in the last November, when the real the
Hmm.
effects went up very fast, and then all the farmers, wow, we are going to be the next Venezuela or
Right.
Argentina.
Yeah.
So hold,
Wheelbarrows full of cash,
yeah,
Zimbabwe.
yeah. But then effects went down, and then it's getting to a normal channel, so they are not afraid of that. They are holding corn because of the very promising domestic market and all the weather risks. But for soybean, I would say because they believe in tariffs will, you know, guarantee all the Chinese demand
Yeah.
throughout here in Brazil. So they are more more the tariffs than the effects. I would
Just
say.
optimistic trade works in their favor going forward. And to see the market rally into the middle of harvest is encouraging to
Yeah,
farmers,
yeah,
no matter
for
what.
sure.
I mean, I don't care which side, which hemisphere you're in. If you see that, you're going to be encouraged that you should hold on. And fundamentally speaking, I could see that as well. What else? Is there anything else that you think we should touch on this week that's important, or anything that you're paying attention to in the week ahead?
Oh, yes. This development of the logistics in Brazil, the impact of Barcarena to what's going to be the impact to Santos, and then the impact for soybean meal flow, which is Brazilian soybean meal is getting very expensive, much more expensive than Argentina and from the US, because when you do the quality adjustment, then Brazil is very expensive because of the flow and because of the soybean rally. And the other point is how this all this mess and this squeeze, this logistics squeeze in Brazil will impact the corn program at the beginning of the, for example, July and August programs in Brazil, which is going to impact the US for sure. Then I think that's the for corn logistics in Brazil are not helping to build a big program for July and the first half of August, which is good for the US in the end.
Yeah, I mean that's going to keep us as the supplier to the world if we can make sure that we don't mess up our freight costs inadvertently, and a couple other things. I think we could definitely see a big or at least a continuation of strong exports. I mean, we should really for, like you said, the next several months, which is interesting because we've had such a heavy front end. I mean, we've had such a strong pace to start with. To see a continuation of 700 to 1 million metric tons a week is going to just add to it. And I don't know. I just want to reiterate the fact that just because it says something on paper, just because the USDA has a projection, or we know that we have this
Yeah.
much in this, area at this point in time, it doesn't mean that the cash market itself won't experience some interesting fluctuations and volatility, in the meantime. Uh, just lastly, thoughts, have you seen anyone, any inquiries that have caught you off guard or heard of any, is Mexico shopping for Brazilian corn in with gusto? Has China come to Brazil to up their soybean purchases? We talked about poorer margins. Have you seen any sort of increase in interest that could be driven by the current trade situation in the US, would you say?
Yeah, Mexico. Some guys ask it for offers for July. Here in Brazil, I don't think so. It's because of the tariffs, but because in comparison to the US, the US will become more expensive and more
Mhm.
expensive, and then Brazil would be a natural choice. But Brazil, only this week for corn, the basis FOB Santos rally 15 cents, and Argentina is expensive because of the farmer selling is not there, soybean and corn. Ukraine increased also, and then Spain again have to buy shop anywhere else, for example, the US or in Brazil, but Brazil is we have no corn.
Yeah.
So no choice. The US corn, it's not cheap for sure. The flat price, they are complaining about that, but it's the only corn I have right now. And then it's very close because when you take a look to the flat price curve comparing to the US nearby and then Brazil for safrinha, it was good to wait. $15 per ton. Now it's much more close,
It's
maybe
crazy to think
$5.
that, yeah, deferred values are now neck and neck or whatever, especially with the crop that, we're still anticipating. I mean, the crop is supposed to be decent out of Brazil coming up. We still have solid feelings about that at this point. So all right, well, I think that's our half hour. I don't want to drag it on for far too long. We'll be back next Friday for sure. Anything that you want to add before we call it a week? At all? Anything you want to point out or thoughts that either one of you have?
No, I don't think so. Just logistics in Brazil, and if China will, buy this very expensive soybean. My guess is they will wait for a bit, and then maybe this rally in Brazil, the soybean rally is over then.
Cools down. Yeah. Carl, anything on your end?
No, I'm good this
Good.
weekend.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week. You get to watch it live or you'll get the recording. You can check that out. If you have questions, send them our way. Our goal here is to try to really shine a light on what is going on in physical grain movement. And right now, we're really heavily focusing on what's taking place in South America, obviously, because it has major implications with, not only the rest of our old crop marketing season and what that looks like, but also huge implications, when we look out towards new. So lots of things to be paying attention to, lots of developments to be watching, and yeah, ask us any questions that you might have, and we'll be back next Friday at 9:30 Eastern, 10:30, or no, right, never mind. I'm not gonna try to guess time zones anymore. It's too late in the week for that. It has been too
It's
long.
Friday. No,
It's
it's
Friday.
Friday.
Yeah, don't do math on Fridays. What? All right, you guys. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Have a great weekend and a good start to your week next week.
Bye bye. See you guys.
Bye.